morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Holly. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist with the township, and I'm here today talking with my friend Uri. Uri is a friend of mine who we came to know each other through Smart Recovery at the Tuesday meeting at the Edison Main Library, and we became friends in that capacity. I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment, but just to remind you, there are 2 Smart Recovery meetings, Friday at 1 p.m., Clara Barton branch, and Tuesdays, 12 p.m., Edison Main Library with myself. So Uri, thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment to just introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Uri, and I am a recovering alcoholic. I've recently just been released from prison. The reason I was in prison is because 3 years ago, I drinking and driving, I had an accident and I hit a woman and she passed away. I was convicted and sentenced for vehicular manslaughter, and I spent 2.5 years in prison. Mm-hmm. And I just got out on parole a couple months ago, and here to tell my story about the dangers of drinking and driving.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And to let everyone know, we did have communication while Uri was incarcerated. We had a pen pal situation going on, so we did keep in contact and talked about recovery the whole time. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
So just to get an idea, how old were you when you started drinking?
Started drinking about 20, 21, pretty much college. My stepfather growing up, I think, was an alcoholic, and I saw a lot of drinking, and I didn't like that, so I never wanted to drink. So I kind of, my whole high school was like, I don't drink. But in college, I started to try because everyone else was doing it, and I enjoyed it. And I continued basically from there until 3 years ago. 4 years ago now.
So at what point did you think that it was becoming a problem?
I never thought it was a problem. I always looked at my situation based on the fact that I had a job, the fact that I went to my job every day. I worked very hard. I put in a lot of hours. And I felt the drinking was not affecting that at all. I had a family. I had 2 kids. We ended up getting divorced, nothing to do with the drinking, but I thought I was doing just fine. I never said to myself, I really have a bad problem. I knew I was drinking too much, but I didn't feel it was excessive, despite the idea that drinking 24/7 is not excessive, but that's what my brain was telling me. So I never thought that I had a problem.
All right. So do you believe that certain careers or industries lend themselves to more drinking of alcohol and drug use?
I think the food business, which is what I work in, is very conducive to drinking. Depending on what kitchen you work in, if you're working in, for example, myself, I was working in catering. We had parties. I worked the parties. There's a bar. Guests are drinking. All the staff is drinking. All the photographers, the floor, everyone's drinking, and you know what? It seemed like normal. I don't think anyone ever got in trouble for it. If someone was drunk during the day, we sent them home and said, sleep it off and come back. So that mentality was like, okay, drinking is acceptable and normal. I think other, professions, drinking, my friend's a lawyer, and they go on lunch business things and they drink. They don't get drunk. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it's accepted in that frame of the business. But going to an office and drinking is not acceptable. But in a kitchen, it seemed like it was.
And how long did that kind of atmosphere take place? How long were you at that job where it was drinking every day and driving home?
Okay, so to give a brief background, so I started drinking in college. That was typical for me. Every weekend, we'd buy alcohol, we'd drink Friday night, Saturday, all day, all night, and recover on Sunday if it wasn't football season. If it was football season, we went to the bar and drank all day Sunday. And then Monday through Friday was no alcohol, regular, normal life. That continued for several years until I started working in the catering business, and in particular when there was a place I worked where the parties were being done, and that became every night there was a party, I always had something to drink. That developed into me having access to the liquor room,
Oh.
and then me invading the liquor room earlier in the night. Then it became earlier in the day, and then it became I got to work, filled myself up my glass of whatever I was drinking, or I should say bottle, and I would drink all day. I didn't drink when I went home. So when I was home, married with kids, I didn't drink, and I thought separating the two was logical, and I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't drink at home. If I didn't work on the weekends, I didn't drink at all. I didn't think about it. So to me, it all seemed perfectly normal. When I separated and moved out of the house, then I would say depression hit in, and that kind of turned into a 24/7 drinking. When that happened, I didn't rely on anything but alcohol.
Okay. As do many. So thank you for sharing that. Can you describe the events on that particular day, what you remember about that day?
Sure. It was a Friday morning. Went to work. Normally, I went to work about 5 in the morning. Obviously, I was drinking before I even made it to work. I always had alcohol in my car, and I always had alcohol at work. So I don't want to say drinking excessively. I would say for me, drinking normally. I felt perfectly fine. I knew I'm intoxicated because of the amount of alcohol I drank, but I didn't feel any different. That was my normal state of being. I was following some traffic on a yield sign, and I must have lost track for a second, and all of a sudden in my windshield I saw someone out of the corner of my eye. As quickly as I could, I slammed as hard as I wanted to, thinking I was hitting the brakes, and I hit the gas.
Oh.
So I ended up driving over the person. I can't remember exactly how she was crossing or where she was walking, but I can remember 98% of what happened. From there, it took about an hour for fire department, ambulance, police to come to the scene and check everything
hour?
out. Well, from the beginning until I was arrested, I should say.
Okay.
Police were talking to me. Everything seemed very normal. I seemed as normal as I can after an accident. And then when they cleared my car out, they found a bottle of alcohol, and then they did a breathalyzer and then arrested me.
And this was in Brooklyn, correct?
This was in Brooklyn.
And you lived in New Jersey.
I lived in Jersey, but I traveled to Brooklyn every day to work.
Okay. So during that hour time, did you try to help her, or what was going
No,
through your
the
mind?
fire department was there right then and there.
Okay.
I'm saying the hour was the process from the time the accident happened until I was arrested. So for the first 45 minutes, no one was treating me as a criminal or thinking I was drunk. It wasn't until they found the alcohol and did a breathalyzer that they realized that I had been drinking.
And how long after that did you find out that she had passed away?
So this was a Friday afternoon. They took me to jail. I was in lockup Friday night in the local precinct. Some point in the early morning, they took me to county lockup. County lockup, I spent up until Saturday night about 10 o'clock. I got called for court. Everything, they call you for court in the actual jail. It's all virtual. And the public defender who was with my case introduced herself, being part of the public defender's office, but she specialized in vehicular homicide. And my mouth dropped, and that was the first I found out that the person had passed away. From there, I was taken to Rikers Island and locked up there until, thankfully, my parents bailed me out. And then I spent basically the next year plus through court until we came up with a plea agreement, and I accepted the plea agreement to do a 2.5 to 7.5 year sentence.
And I do remember you were coming to the Smart Recovery meetings during that time, so it took about a year from the time of accident to be convicted?
The accident happened in February, and the sentencing didn't happen until September the following year.
What was your experience like during that year? I can't even imagine.
So Rikers Island was as bad as people say. Thank God I was only there for my total time, 3 weeks in total, but people who spent longer time there, it's horrible. That in itself was something I never want to ever experience again. But I thankfully, I made it through with no problems. I got into 0 fights, 0 trouble my entire prison stay. So from that aspect, I think, you know, I handled it very well. I stayed motivated and positive that, you know, whatever the reason this happened to me, the end result is going to be something positive. And positive is by me sharing my story to let people know. There's so many people I meet that drink and don't think it's a problem. They drink and drive and nothing ever happened. They never got pulled over. They never had an accident. I was the same person. And one day, for whatever reason, that all changed. And it's all because of alcohol. I'm not going to try to lie and say that I wasn't drinking that day in an accident and I don't deserve it. No, I drank. I was drinking 24/7 for quite a long time. And unfortunately, I hit the gas instead of the brake and someone passed away. And I went up to prison. And in prison, I met a bunch of other people, similar types of stories. I never even spoke to police before this happened. Never had trouble in my life. And a lot of people the same way, because alcohol tends to get you in a car. And once you're in the car, even if you think you have all the control, you don't. I was very tolerable to alcohol. That's why I believe I could drink a lot and feel normal. But that doesn't mean that my reaction time and my decisions are all correct. And that's what I had to learn the very hard way. And I'd hate to see anyone else go through the same type of situation that myself, and I must have met about 20 other guys in the prison I was in, let alone who knows where else in other prisons. But it's very common for people who drink to drive, and once you get in that car behind the wheel, anything that happens is your fault. I met a guy in prison who was in an accident where someone crashed into him. But he was the driver, and he had alcohol in his system, and he got arrested and sent to prison. So my clear warning to people is that anytime you get in a car and you drink, no matter what happens, you are going to get arrested and sent to jail. And if, God forbid, you kill someone, you're going to prison like myself.
And it's tough because alcohol is such a socially acceptable form of everything. It's used to celebrate, it's used to commiserate, funerals, weddings. So it's such a kind of socially acceptable thing. It's everywhere. And it's kind of glamorized still to date. Billboards, magazines, movies,
I don't think you can go through a day without seeing some type of advertising for alcohol.
And like you said, lawyers, golf parties, it's such a common theme. So now let's talk about your recovery journey. Can you describe your recovery process or what that was like?
Sure. So after I got bailed out of Rikers, I immediately went to a 30-day inpatient for a alcohol substance abuse program. I was told I needed to do that in order to get a placement in a long-term facility. I didn't know how long I needed to be there. I was in I would say a denial state of mind that I was actually needing recovery and needing help, and because I was just, I didn't want to live. I honestly, killing someone it eats at me every day. And that was the hardest time right after, was trying to deal with why me? Why this happened? How did I let it happen? Like a lot of thoughts, and my idea of recovery was I'm never drinking again because of what just happened. And I was going to continue life like that. What I discovered, thankfully going to rehab and meeting with therapists, is trying to understand the reason why I drank. To me, the most important thing to help you recover is to go back in your life and realize where your role is in the drinking. So my role began at around 2021, where I let friends influence me to drink, and I enjoyed it, and I chose to continue. And that continuation lasted me a long, long time until I came here.
Interesting. So the root cause wasn't even any type of trauma or anything. It was just something that your brain decided that you liked and enjoyed.
Correct. But the trauma from that was earlier in my childhood. I am coming from a divorced family. My parents got divorced when I was 9, 10 years old. I blocked out most of my childhood, but I distinctly remember my parents always fighting and always arguing. And that, to me in itself, I became very shy and very reclusive and very isolated. I felt more comfortably by myself than with others. And that kind of led me into the point where, even in my 20s, when I started drinking and realizing that I needed alcohol to feel a little more sociable and to feel a little normal and to be more accepting. And I used that alcohol as a boost to help me, or I thought it would help me. I definitely had more friends. I mean, I had so many people from all over would come and so I felt like somebody. I had more self-worth. And I didn't have any of that. So through my process of going to therapy and then learning about my trauma was to understand that, you know what, I was a child. I didn't have choices. My parents fight, it's not my fault. Why I went into a little shell, we'll never know. But in order to come out of that shell, that's what I had to do. So basically, looking back at my life and all those decisions, it all stems from my situation as a childhood that turned into leading to alcohol. And once I discovered alcohol, it was like, here's the solution. I don't have to feel this way anymore. And that's why I chose alcohol.
I can relate to that.
Right.
Definitely. So what is one positive change you've noticed in yourself through recovery? What do you like about yourself?
So let me go back to the part when I changed my life. I was in rehab, essentially learning a little bit about addiction, alcoholism, and as much as everyone's trying to help, I still felt like this life is just going to be miserable. How am I going to deal with the death of someone? How my kids stopped talking to me. I haven't spoken to my kids in 4 years now. And I didn't know how to go further. So someone said to me, maybe jokingly or maybe not, he's like, the only difference between me and you, I got in the car 1,000 times, is you ended up getting into an accident and killing someone. I said, well, that's a very big difference. And I can't get past that. So he said to me, it's a choice. I said, what do you mean it's a choice? I said, you can either choose to live with this thought and make this your defining moment in life, and that's who you are, someone who's an alcoholic who killed someone, or you can choose something different. And to me, that set a different thing in my brain and said, you know what? I can choose to be happy, or I can choose to be miserable, and I choose to be happy. And from there, I went through every point in my life where I felt unhappy, angry, frustrated, depressed, any of those things, that I allowed myself to feel those things, but not just feel them, to make that my life. So now I choose to live happy. And what happiness to me is that I know that I'm a good person and I can help people, and anyone who thinks of me different, my kids don't talk to me, I used to let that affect me and make me drink. I don't let that. Nobody has control over me.
Absolutely.
So I choose to be happy every day. I choose to do as much good and helpful as I can. And I don't allow others to influence that.
Amazing. And you brushed on a good point, just to remind our viewers at home, if you are struggling with alcohol, the impact of our choices. As you mentioned, your 2 children don't speak to you anymore, kind of as a result of this incident. And also the woman who was killed had 2 small children as well. So it's a humongous ripple effect. So now, can you describe what your, was it difficult to find recovery in prison? What was that experience like?
So thankfully, by the time I got to prison, I was already in recovery for over a year. So I had a very good foundation for going into prison, and no matter what would happen there, no one's going to influence me otherwise. Prison is full with drugs and alcohol, and it's as simple as you walk into the dorm which I was in, someone's going to ask you, do you do drugs? If you say yes, they hook you in and they take your life. And if you say no, they leave you alone. So that every person that approached me, do you smoke weed? Do you do deuce? Do you do, I don't even know what half the things are in prison. I say no. Do you drink? No. And they left me alone. The second thing I did was I read a lot. I went to the library when it was open, at least once a week, if not twice a week, and all my free time was reading books. In 2.5 years, I must have read 400 books. Wow. And to me, that was basically sitting in a dorm with a bunch of other prisoners and me just concentrating on my book and disappearing into that. And it became very easy.
That's kind of a positive that you could take away from it too, that you took the time to educate and better yourself too. So I admire
I used the time as best as they allowed, I should say, because you have zero control and zero say in anything that happens in prison. They just tell you when and what you can do.
So how has this event changed the course of your life?
I don't drink anymore, and to me that's the biggest thing to smile about. I can still remember when I drank how I used to love it and enjoy it and look forward to it. And now to me, I associate drinking with death. So to me, the fact that I don't even think about having a drink just makes my day better. I'm not going to say my memory wasn't great when I was drinking, but I definitely didn't remember things, and I don't have that problem anymore. And again, when I get stressed out now, instead of reaching for a bottle, I simply relax, take a breath, and think about something positive. And to me, that's waking up in the morning and feeling happy and good, no matter what else is going on, is something that can't be replaced by anything. So overall, as just a happy person, I can't say any other time in my life I've been this way. And to me, that's the biggest blessing of all.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And last question, what advice would you give to other people who may be drinking and driving?
I'll say this once again, do not drink and drive. I personally don't drink, and I don't recommend anyone drinks, but if you're going to drink, do not drive. If anybody you see gets into a car that's drunk, take the keys away, don't let them drive. It's so easy today with all the different ways of Ubers and Lyfts and other it's unnecessary to get behind the wheel. And I can't say it any easier than I never in my life thought this would happen to me. I thought I would function normal, get in my car like I did 1,000 times for 10 years, but that's not the reality. The reality is once you get behind the wheel, if anything happens, you're going to suffer the consequences.
Absolutely. What do you like about Smart Recovery? That's the last question.
This is a question I get all the time. I've attended AA meetings, I've attended NA meetings. When I attended Smart Recovery, the approach is logical, using science, using normal logic. To me, that makes the most sense than, listen, I believe in God, other people don't. AA does higher power. I believe in all that. But the understanding of the disease, I see it more logical than AA does. And Smart Recovery has taught me the basic tools that you need to recover and how to help other people as well. It's a simple thing to me as a choice. people, I think, use that I'm an alcoholic or I'm a drug addict, I don't have a choice. I understand the pull. The pull is not what's the problem. The problem is the choice you made originally. And everyone has a choice to make. And Smart Recovery tells you every day you can choose to drink or not. What you do with that choice, that's basically how you're going to recover or not.
Yep.
And I think that logic and the tools and all the different forms of knowledge that Smart Recovery does is very simple for me to understand and easy for me to live.
Absolutely. And just to let everyone know, SMART is an acronym which stands for Self-Management and Recovery Training. So again, meetings Tuesdays, 12 p.m., Edison Main Library, Friday, 1 p.m., Clara Barton Branch. Thank you so much, Uri, for sitting and talking with me today. Hopefully this has helped to spread awareness, and also a big thank you to the Edison administration for making these programs possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.